inner child is the internal compass that shapes our inner world and the world around us. The inner child acts as a blueprint that shapes our capacity to connect and relate to those around us, and we carry these experiences with us for the rest of our life, which is why an inner child wounding in the form of emotional or psychological experiences can manifest as unresolved trauma, negative beliefs, and unmet needs that continue to impact our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors into adulthood. This is why healing their inner child wound will be the most important life work that you can do for yourself, which often requires acknowledging and processing past experiences, practicing self-compassion, and engaging in techniques to help heal deep-seated wounds that could be preventing you from having the life that you deserve. Free yourself from pain and the emotional baggage that you could be carrying with you for the rest of your life. When I started my healing journey, I had no guidance, no mentor, or professional help, so I was very much all over the place and I didn't exactly know what I was doing half the time. However, over the last 3.5 years, I have been successful in working through some of my major core wounds to heal my inner child that has transformed my life in ways that I cannot explain in words, which is why I have combined some of the most powerful techniques that I have tried and tested on myself, which has been proven to be exceptionally transformative. So here I have combined these techniques with you and sharing with you 5 important steps that you can take to help you heal your inner child wound. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vina Raji, and this channel is dedicated to talking about healing from childhood trauma, narcissistic abuse, and attachment style, something that I have done on myself over the last 3.5 years without any professional help or guidance. And I have dedicated to starting this channel to share with you on my journey and hoping that this information will be able to help those who are currently on their healing journey as much as this helped me. And if you are new here, I would really appreciate if you could please hit like, subscribe, comment, share. That would help me to grow the channel and reach more people, as well as grow this community, and that would also keep me motivated to keep going and making such contents. And in today's video, we are going to talk about one of the most important techniques when it comes to healing our trauma, which is to heal your inner child in 5 simple steps. And I would really recommend that you watch this video until the end, because if you are looking to transform your life and heal your trauma and free yourself from a lifetime of pain and emotional baggage, this method is definitely going to transform your life. The first step is to know your attachment style. Now, knowing your attachment style will give you an in-depth understanding into your own patterns, and you can start recognizing some of the recurring patterns that you may have noticed in your personal relationships. While we don't want to go around putting labels on people, calling them an anxious person or an avoidant person, or calling them a narcissist, understanding that your patterns are a result of the environment that you grew up in can expand your worldview to understand why you do what you do and how you could have come to develop certain habits and behaviors that currently affects your ability to connect and relate with people, or it affects your life in general. Now, fundamentally, our personality and character is shaped by those who raised us and the environment we grew up in, which goes back to our childhood and our family environment. So taking a look at your own attachment style and understanding it from a scientific and psychological point of view, which has been proven by experts from the world around, can bring you much ease, and it also helps you to take away the self-blame and guilt many people tend to hold on to. Talk therapy can also be an alternative for those who are getting started that can help them understand themselves better. Now, I am not ruling out talk therapy. However, I am personally not a fan of talk therapy because it really did not do much for me. However, a good therapist can help to guide those who are just only getting started and might need a little bit more guidance, because mind you, not everyone is into psychology, not everyone is interested in taking the time to read about attachment style. So for those who do not have the time, or maybe you would just prefer to have someone guide you through understanding about your own patterns, talk therapy is going to be a great place for you to start, and your therapist, a good therapist, will be able to help you understand your own patterns and where you may have come to develop those patterns. This can actually be a very powerful tool that can be used to help you heal some of your patterns. Now, let's say, for example, if you struggle with communication, then you can narrow down as to why you struggle with communication and where that struggle could have started. Your therapist might be able to walk you through and help you see through it. Now, let's say, for example, if you tend to be a little bit more anxious, you tend to act a certain way, maybe you get anxious and you need constant reassurance and validation, then you can change your mindset, shift your perspective to acknowledge that it is your nervous system that has been wired a certain way that forces you to behave in the way, and you are not consciously choosing to feel anxious or behave in that way. Now, this is a great way for you to understand your own behaviors and have a lot of compassion for yourself, and this eliminates the need to feel guilty or blame yourself for feeling a certain way or for having certain patterns. Next we have is EMDR therapy. Now, this is an extremely powerful and effective technique, and personally I would say that this is by far the most effective healing technique that is available for anyone who is looking to address some deep repressed trauma, and this can go all the way back into your early childhood memories. So what EMDR really does is it takes you back to a time when you had experienced some events that had caused you difficult emotions, but you felt stuck and helpless at that time and didn't know how to process those uncomfortable and difficult emotions. Maybe there was deep sadness, there was frustration, there was pain or anger, and you just didn't know how to handle it. Children do not have a built-in sense to know what is right or wrong, and sometimes parents do not know how to attune to the child's emotional needs, which is often the case with a lot of adults who have childhood trauma. So those experience events can be perceived as a rejection or an abandonment or neglect that sits in the body, and it becomes an imprint in the subconscious mind. It becomes a limiting belief like I am not worthy, or I am not worthy of love, I am not lovable, which is perceived by your inner child. Now, this is not your conscious mind feeling or picking up this limiting belief. It is your subconscious mind. Now, which is why when you experience adult relationship, some events will remind you again of the perceived rejection that you experienced as a child. Or not necessarily rejection, it could also take you back to a time when you had experienced an event that had caused you a lot of uncomfortable and difficult emotions that you may have not yet processed, which had stayed in your body, which is why certain events would trigger you again in your adult relationships until you tend to go back to what actually happened back then and try to work through it and release that from your body. So what happens is when these emotions are not released, it accumulates over time as we age, as we get older. It becomes extremely heavy because you are only taking in, you're not really doing anything actively to release these painful negative emotions, and so much so that your body will begin to experience so much pain emotionally that would affect your personal relationships, your romantic relationships, and sometimes all this accumulated trauma in our body would often manifest as physical symptoms as well, which has been proven by many experts as well. Just to be clear and to give you a little bit of context, I had not done this exercise with the help of a professional. However, I did attempt self-administered EMDR that made a huge impact on some of my major core wounds, which I did not know existed, and how that was actually affecting some very important areas of my life. Do know this, that we can absolutely heal our core wounds. We can heal ourselves and our nervous system because our bodies have the natural healing abilities. However, this does require a lot of intentional effort, focus, and a certain level of awareness and emotional regulation skills, because this isn't something that you can manage on your own if you don't have healthy emotional regulation skills and tools at your disposal. Therefore, this is definitely not something to be attempted if you think that you are not able to handle difficult emotions on your own. This is best done with guidance and with a professional help. The downside to this technique is that this can actually bring up a lot of painful old wounds to the surface, and it can be really intense. It can even be probably 10 times more painful than the actual events that you had experienced before, because you are basically opening up all repressed wounds and emotion that has been left unattended and unaddressed for a long time now. Now, let's look at it this way. If you were to sustain a wound or maybe an injury, it hurts much lesser than it would when it is left unattended or uncared for, which over time then develops into a more septic wound that would likely then require medical intervention because it causes extreme pain, discomfort, and that would likely require more care or for someone to tend to it. So look at your emotional wounds the same way. It does become septic when it's left untouched, untapped for such a long time. So now when we try to touch, open, to tend to it now, you are going to have to deal with the extreme pain and discomfort that would come to the surface. But this is exactly where the work is done, when you will actually have to confront, acknowledge, with compassion, with a lot of care and understanding to everything that you had experienced, and release those wounds and those emotions from your body. The problem is this is not a technique that everyone can do on their own, because a lot of working adults have a very cluttered headspace and they're just overly stimulated by external factors such as work, family, and friends, which is why EMDR is best attempted with a professional guidance. And now I would say this, I've said this, that this is by far one of the best ways to heal your inner child wounds, because we first need to release our old programming before we can rewire our brains with new programming. And this is an absolutely powerful technique, and when done right with help, it can bring you a lot of healing. The third one is one of my favorites, which is the mirror exercise, and personally I did enjoy this a lot. Now, having awareness of your own patterns is the first step to healing when you understand what healthy relating should look like and start emulating what a secure attachment would do differently. So it often starts with awareness and then understanding what a secure communication is and what secure people would do differently to nurture healthy habits in their connections. So the next step is to start embodying those behaviors slowly. And this has to be a slow process, because you have to take one step at a time, because trying to do too many things, trying to change too many of your habits at once can be emotionally overwhelming, and that you might just end up losing motivation. So this is a very slow and gradual process, but this can be really, really powerful and effective when you start embodying and making little changes in the way you show up on a daily basis. So my personal suggestion here is that to pick 3 of your top traits or patterns that you want to work on towards becoming more secure. So maybe you can start by developing secure communication, so understanding how a secure person would communicate. And then next, you can probably learn how secure people learn to set and hold healthy boundaries. And then the third one could be navigating conflict management. How does a secure person manage conflict? So if you've always been conflict avoidant, or maybe if you come off a little defensive when there is conflict, then you want to start embodying what a secure person would do. Now, a secure person would be attentive. They listen, they try to understand your point of view, and then they would try to reason or explain their point of view. So they are not someone who would run away at the first sight of conflicts, or someone that would jump on to defend themselves at the first sign of conflict or any feedback that is directed. So this is how you want to slowly and gradually help to change your habits and nurture yourself. Remind yourself you can make this internal shift on a daily basis as long as you're mindful and intentional with your efforts. So you just have to catch yourself, remind yourself when you notice that you are showing up with a certain pattern that you had always known all your life. Now remember, in order for us to become a secure person, or to start responding in a more secure way, we first need to understand how a secure person would respond, and then we have to go back and look at where we are on the spectrum. Are we more avoidant? Do we run away from conflicts just to try and keep the peace, or do we get really anxious and we just jump in head first and try to fix a situation or get overly defensive? So this really helps, because when you start practicing this, you will become it. It will make an internal shift in terms of how you want to show up for yourself. I also just want to remind that when you're first getting started, when you are taking this first steps to implement this approach, it can be uncomfortable and it can often also feel very awkward, especially if you've had a hard time setting boundaries and being firm and saying no when something is just not aligned with your values or with your needs. You will find it uncomfortable if you've always been the kind of person who would let it slide and bend backwards. So this again will be a process for you to step out of your comfort zone, try new approaches, and understand that growth and progress only happens outside of your comfort zone. So whenever you start feeling awkward and uncomfortable, just remind yourself that you are on your way to progress and you are more focused on your growth, and it doesn't matter what you feel in that present moment because you will reap the rewards at the end of it. The fourth step, okay, now this is actually quite easy and anyone can do this, which is to practice daily affirmations. Now, affirmations are actually very simple and can have profound impact when it is done regularly and religiously. Our brain has the capacity to receive what we feed it with. Therefore, when you choose to change your belief system and exercise a mindset shift through affirmations, you are rewiring your subconscious mind in a very powerful way. So let's say, for example, maybe you have a fear of abandonment or fear of rejection, which is in fact a very common trauma response for a lot of adults, because that is what you had likely experienced as a child, and therefore you can see why you tend to get easily triggered in your connections when your nervous system scans and picks up for a threat in your surroundings that activate these fears and causes extreme anxious thoughts, and it wrecks your nervous system. So when this happens, instead what you can start doing here is to start with a daily practice, because your biggest fear is deep down, I am not lovable, or I am not worthy. Everyone's going to leave me maybe because I'm not worthy of love. So you want to change that. You want to do a subconscious mindset shift. So you start with a daily affirmation, with affirmations like, I am worthy. I am worthy of love and care. I am worthy of the best partner, friendship, relationship. I am deserving of you name it, the kind of relationship that you actually desire. So what you're really doing is, this is actually going to cause an internal shift in terms of how you feel within yourself. Now the key here is to believe that these affirmations, this exercise will work, and to put it into practice on a daily basis. Now, just with everything else, consistency is key. You have to be consistent, because affirmations can be used to retrain your brain on a neurological level to focus on the good and what you desire in life. If you're getting started with this exercise, I would suggest that you do it for 30 consecutive days, and it's best done by saying it out loud or saying it in your mind. However, as long as you do it consciously. I do not recommend those robotic affirmations that you can find online, because when you are getting started, it's far more powerful when you are consciously saying this to yourself, and your body and mind will be able to pick this up energetically to cause that internal shift. Now, I promise you one thing, when you do this exercise regularly, within 2 weeks, give yourself 2 weeks, you will start experiencing an internal shift in terms of how you feel within yourself. I would also encourage you to listen to subliminals as well. Now, the difference with affirmations and subliminals is that affirmations are more consciously done, whereas subliminals are designed to bypass your conscious mind directly into your subconscious mind, and therefore these two practices are slightly different. And I would recommend to start your day with a daily affirmation, whereas with subliminals you can just play it in the background, because it doesn't require a focus, it doesn't require your focus or conscious effort. You do not need to concentrate when you're listening to subliminals, so you can even just plug in your headphones and listen to subliminals when you're on your way to work, or maybe when you're doing office job, or maybe when you're doing some light activities like maybe reading a book, because it's very relaxing. One thing I promise you is the fact that affirmations, these are not underrated. I will not use the word underrated, but for those who have practiced affirmations, you know what I'm talking about. It's so simple. It doesn't require much effort on your part, but so as long as you're conscious and intentional, you can actually turn your life around with affirmations and subliminals. And the last step is definitely something that has been an integral part of my healing and transformative journey, which is spiritual practices. Now, spiritual practices requires no introduction. Spiritual practices like meditation, breath work, and chakra healing has been around for the longest time. However, it has gained a lot of momentum and popularity in the recent times thanks to social media and more people becoming aware of the benefits it brings to our mind, body, and soul. Now, I am definitely not going to get into details in terms of what each one of these practices does to us. However, most people probably who are watching this video already know the benefits of the spiritual practices, and this holistic practices does so much to us, and this age-old method has been a great source of healing to our bodies for the longest time. And as I said earlier, our bodies is exceptionally powerful and has the capacity and the ability to heal itself and rewire its internal belief system. However, it needs to be done right. Now, meditation for one doesn't change the way you feel about yourself. However, the goal of meditation is to be able to bring stillness and awareness so that it helps you to realign and for you to feel more centered in your own self, in your mind, and in your body. And notice how quickly a 10-minute meditation at the start of your day can make an impact as to how you feel in your own mind and your own body. And it also allows you to stay more calm and more present. Now, similarly, breath work is exceptional to release any blocked or negative energies in our body, especially for those who have a lot of trauma. Or maybe let's not talk about trauma. Let's say we tend to carry a lot of stress with us on a day-to-day basis. So breath work can actually help to release the stored energies from the body so that you can start feeling much lighter. Now, I promise you one thing, if you were to start your day and end your day with a simple 5 minutes breath work, you would start feeling a lot more lighter, because we only feel heavier when we keep taking on and we do nothing to release these energies. And that's exactly what breath work does. A fire breath work is designed to help clear out all the blocked energies in our body so that you can feel so much lighter and at ease. So these two practices can often be done together. There are tons of videos available online, so feel free to give yourself a try if you have not tried it, and I promise you that it really brings so much of peace, so much lightness, and that is something that we all want to feel. And next, of course, we have chakra healing. Now, this is something that I really underestimated. For some time, I didn't know. Probably only 1 year ago, I became aware of chakra healing. And it's been an integral part of my healing journey because it makes such a profound shift as to how I am today. In fact, I was one person who could not be in front of the camera. Speaking in front of the camera would just give me so much of anxiety. I had this fear of criticism, or I was just so consumed with a lot of preoccupied thoughts about what people would think of me, if I would make a fool of myself. I was just so critical about myself. And then I realized that where all this was coming from, of course, it's all interconnected. It goes way back with trauma, how it impacts our self-confidence. So when I began to heal my chakra, it started off with healing my throat chakra that resulted in a more confident communication. And then next we have the solar plexus chakra, which activated my self-confidence, and that will impact every other area of your life when you heal your solar plexus chakra. And then next is obviously healing the heart chakra, which then enables you to open yourself up to allowing a loving connection and wanting to build and bond and connect with people in a more meaningful way. And when you have a healed heart chakra, you will also be very mindful of the kind of people that you allow into your life, and you would be more conscious of stepping away from people who are toxic and not healthy, or maybe just don't give you good energy or good vibe. So as you can see, these holistic practices, when combined with the other 4 techniques that I've just shared here, can and will completely shift, rewire your nervous system, and can help you to heal your wounded inner child. And once you heal your wounded inner child, you will be able to see the world through a different lens, and you would see the world differently.